I'm so tired of my sore knees.
Yeah. Bodies falling apart isn't ever fun.
True. But unfortunately, unlike lower surgery for trans people, joint replacements have quite a high regret rate. You'd be weird to know.
Yeah. Apparently, they're. I guess being that major of a thing, it comes with negatives. Yeah.
Complications, long healing time, and the fact that those joints don't last very long. So if you happen to be someone who desperately needs to get a joint replaced in your 20s, 30s, you are going to be replacing that pretty much every decade.
Not fun.
Not fun at all. So I have decided that I might just go instead for a reality-ectomy.
A what, sorry?
A reality-ectomy.
What's that?
Well, I would basically have myself removed from reality and would instead become basically a cartoon person.
Okay.
So, piano falls on my head, I turned into like a little concertina for a bit, and then I'm back to normal in the next scene.
That sounds very, very, very convenient for my clumsiness.
Yeah. If you get any kind of injury, like there's probably like a giant comedic bruise, but you just squeeze it back down into yourself, and you're pretty much fine. Happen to get exploded, you will be a bit sooty for a moment. You just give it maybe a shake, or just walk out of everyone else's view and come back again, and it'll be fine again.
Oh, if I accidentally fell off something high, I'd have a few seconds to, realise and sort of wiggle my legs and get back.
Indeed. Or you could maybe just hold up a sign that says, uh-oh.
Yeah, that'd be alright in the end.
Yeah, you'd be fine.
Imagine the size of hugs you could give with cartoon arms.
You could do, multiple wraparounds. It would almost be my dream of tentacles. The biggest hug.
How long was the wait list for this? I want in.
It's the NHS, so...
Oh.
Greetings, strangers, queer and pleasant. I'm not Laura Kate Magnet Dale.
I'm not Jane Aerith Magnet Dale, and welcome to another episode of Queer and Pleasant Strangers. It's a podcast. We're two queer trans women. That's us. We're wifey types.
Yeah.
Have a bit of a silly little catch-up about the stuff we've been media consuming in the week.
The silliest, the littlest, the ketchupist.
All of the bits. How are you doing?
I am not happy about the fact that we are already having early nights and cold times.
The summer does not feel like it's allowed to be over yet. We need a bit more, please.
No, it's just...
Please, summer, can I have some more?
No, damp and cold and dark. So already feeling I should start getting the sad lamp on. Already feeling like a strong need for that.
It really is becoming put the daylight lamp on season already, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, we've had a couple of days recently where it was so dark, by 4 o'clock, because it was raining and overcast, that I basically needed to have a light on.
Yeah.
It's like, wow.
The
season, here again.
The season is progressing.
It sure is. Tempers sure do be fugiting. How, on the other hand, are you?
I'm doing alright. I've played some stuff this week.
Played things? We should talk about those.
Let's talk about the thing we played together at the weekend.
The thing I feel like I kind of tortured you with, unfortunately.
No, I had a great time with some caveats that I'm glad you were here to protect me from the worst of. So we played through Full Throttle.
Yes, the remaster.
The remaster of Full Throttle, the late-era LucasArts adventure game.
Yeah, I think it was this Grim Fandango and then the death of the... company.
Yeah, so point-and-click adventure game about a kind of a gang of bikers, but really just one big gruff bikerman.
Ben Throttle,
who, the short version, he gets framed for a crime he did not do. He has to save the fate of the last motorcycle company in the world, to stop them going and making minivans instead of motorcycles, and go save his motorcycle gang. There is a lot to love about this point-and-click adventure game.
Some great tunes.
Wonderful voice performances. He's got Mark Hamill doing voices in it. He does great. The tone and energy and presentation are all top-notch.
Yeah.
It's if you don't get too stuck on it, it's like you sit and play it in one sitting kind of game.
Yeah.
That, like, has some great soundtrack. It's got, a great original soundtrack to it, some good rock tunes.
Oh, yes. Some very silly fake country.
Indeed. It's a very fun, like, it's... If not for the caveats I'm about to talk about, like, just in terms of, like, tone and narrative and setting, one of my favourite LucasArts games I've played.
This feels like one of those LucasArts games that they couldn't decide if they had a better idea for a film or a game.
Yeah, they definitely had a good idea for a story and a good set of characters to portray that story. But, yeah, there's some problems with it. There's a couple of times this game has other gameplay styles other than point-and-click adventure inserted into it that I don't think are to the game's benefit.
No, it was nice that it tried a thing.
Yeah.
Like Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade introduced the concept of, like, a fighting mechanics that it pulled off reasonably well. But people who had come for the cerebral aspect maybe didn't find that, like, the best thing.
Yeah.
But this tried to do bike-to-bike combat and a destruction derby.
Yeah, the bike-to-bike combat, like, isn't so bad. It's a little finicky and precise, and it's there to pad time. But, like, it's not conceptually a bad idea.
It's not conceptually a bad idea until you realise that you are basically doing, like, a string of missions to try and find a few specific items.
Yeah.
Because you need to get one thing to get another thing to get another thing. And they clearly knew this was going to be a problem for a lot of people, because there is a hotkey combination to just skip each one of those fights.
To just auto-win the fight. Yeah.
Basically, the concept is you need to get, like, the chain, to get the skull mace, to get the chainsaw, to get the 2x4, to get the cavefish goggles. And part of the problem with that is... Oh, and also one person that you need to fight in order to get a boost thing for your bike, like a nitrous. The thing is, like, if you fail one of the fights, and some of them you can fail, like, in a single hit...
Yes.
You have to basically keep driving around the main road in the hope of finding the one person who has that thing again.
Yes, you have to fight a lot of people unnecessarily to get back to the one person who has the next thing in the chain.
Yes, and there are a couple of... I think it's the chain versus the mace. The chain can basically... The chainsaw can basically lose you the mace.
Yes.
So if you're fighting against that person with the mace and you fuck up that fight, you might just break your mace and have to do that fight again.
Yeah.
It feels like they were like, we need to pad time because there is not enough of this game.
Yeah.
It feels like it's got, like, less characters to talk to than most other LucasArts games, which most of them rely quite a lot on the interaction between characters.
Yes, agreed.
It feels like it's got less overall places, and then, like, it just relies on either really obtuse things or just padding it in not necessarily terribly helpful ways.
Because the other minigame is a sort of this top-down destruction derby thing that has, like, a very finicky control scheme where you move the mouse left and right to rotate a car and hold the mouse down to accelerate.
There might be keyboard controls, but
maybe. But the momentum of how it moves is really weird, and it's hard to be precise. And this destruction derby has, like, enemies that are weirdly aggressive at seeking you down. And targeting you at certain ranges.
The thing is that they are trying to do it as a puzzle rather than, like, an actual destruction derby, which means basically there are specific places that you can drive and can't drive, otherwise you will be immediately tagged.
Yes, but one of the places that they're really aggressive at attacking you is getting onto that leftmost ramp, which is a vital thing. You are meant to be there. And it'll just... I'm, like, trying to line up this very precise angle I need to be to go up the ramp, and the thing will a driver will just hit me, and I'm like, okay, well, now I gotta line that up again.
Yeah.
It's way too precise for its own good. It doesn't let you just sort of not really think and go by vibes the way that Destruction Derby kind of needs to feel.
Yeah,
correct.
And also, like, there are things where if you make small mistakes, it can mean that you basically have to restart the entire thing.
Yeah.
Because if you slightly misplace the car that you're able to, like, immobilize and move into position, then you can basically find that you're completely unable to... Or that basically something will happen that will restart that car running. And that's basically you back to the start of the puzzle. Okay, now I need to get that thing. Now I need to move this to a specific place. Now I need to knock it off a ramp so that I can... It feels like it would have been so much quicker if you just gone, the car's become immobilized if I go off the ramp. cool, now that I know that, like, ticks a flag that goes, instead of the blue car being in one particular place, it will now gravitate to be slightly in a slightly different position,
Yes.
and then you just go off the other ramp and you can incapacitate them that way.
Yes. But let's talk about I would say the bigger problem this game has, which is a problem with UI communication.
Yes.
That can cause some real points of frustration that I'm so glad I had you sat next to me to go, yeah, this is bullshit, I'm just going to tell you what you need to click on if that's okay with you, because, like, yeah, it's nonsense and you're not going to get it. And I was like, cool, I appreciate that.
I think the thing is the thing that I have appreciated playing through a bunch of, like, the point and clicks that I loved from my childhood with you is being able to see it from a first time perspective again. And the thing I remember most now that we've played it again from my very first time playing through that is just the frustration of I don't know what to do.
Yes.
There are so few places to go, there are so few conversations to have with people, that means the game is telling me I have all the information I need in this small location. What is it that I am somehow missing?
Yeah.
And it could be really easily solved by going, like, this will flash as an interactable.
Well, yeah. I think the big problem it has in that regard is there are two types of ways that the UI can miscommunicate to you what is or is not interactable. So the first problem, there is a reticle that gets a red box around it when you're hovering over something that you can look at, lick, touch, kick, whatever.
Yeah.
And that, for the first, like, I'm going to say 45 plus minutes of the game, is a very reliable indicator of if you see that, that means it's interactable. You never need to click on a thing that doesn't come up with that icon.
Yeah.
Except, sometimes things you need to click on won't have that icon.
Yeah.
And eventually what it kind of seemed was that the logic there is, if you need to walk somewhere to, say, hide behind a thing,
Yeah.
even though that's technically like, hey, it would be great to have that, like, highlight in some way to say, this is not part of the background, this is a thing you can interact with, if you click, you will walk behind it. Like, it just doesn't do that. And I was like, okay, eventually I kind of get my head around its logic, it's kind of bullshit, but at least I know if I see the red box, it's an interact. If I don't see the red box, I can walk there. Except later, the game has a moment where the rules are opposite, where you need to walk through a specific path, and it's got the red box, as if you're going to, like, do an interaction. So I'm like, oh, I guess I can't walk there. No, you have to just kind of brute force clicking regardless to make it walk, despite the fact that that's not the walk icon. And neither of these would be as big of a problem as they are, if not for the fact that this game does really like to do timed sequences where you have only a few seconds to work out what the reaction is.
Especially towards the end.
Yep. And particularly the end of the game is timed sequences tied in with very lengthy unskippable cutscenes in a big chain of them, where if you miss one time-limited interaction or click on the wrong thing, you have to go right back to the chain of long cutscene interaction to get back to where you were.
Yeah. And admittedly, like, if you'd, like, fuck that up once, you could go, okay, well, roughly here was where problems started, so I will get past the cutscene and save it. And we could have done that, but basically we were just trying to play mouse only for the sake of playing it on the TV with a mouse rather than with a controller, because I hate playing point and clicks with a controller.
Yes.
But I think there's a couple of problems. Like, the first thing is the gas tower puzzle.
Yes.
I feel like that could have really easily been solved by the thing in the background that you have to hide behind. Make it interactable, and make it so that when you look at it, it's like, oh, it's pretty dark back here. I guess no one would see me back here.
I mean, even just putting a spotlight on it would have gone, ooh, that my attention is drawn, maybe I hide behind that.
Yeah, something to make it, like, I mean, and especially with, like, this particular version, it has a, like, show interactables button. So I don't think it would have been that hard to go, like, just put some little bit of text on that item in the background and go, like, just something to, like, suggest that is the case.
Yeah.
Because really, this just feels like, hey, we want to sell you on hint books or the helpline, which got me in a lot of trouble.
The one mentioned in the credits of the game.
Yes. and I know LucasArts like to make jokes about the hint line. Like, there's a full-on reference to it where you actually call it in Monkey Island 2.
Yes.
But there are a lot of things, like, I love the music, I love some of the characters, I love the story overall, but there is so much in this that, first time through, it's just bullshit.
I am glad I had you, so that my lingering feeling was that was a cool game with some problems, rather than, fuck this.
And the other thing is, I should have known that these were the case, because I found myself, like, before you'd even got to a point going, oh yeah, this one thing's coming up, I'm just going to look up a walkthrough, so I've got a video of I know exactly what to do in this thing.
Yeah.
Because the puzzle where you are told that, like, there's a crack in the wall,
Yes.
and it's at your eye line, and when at the point on your eye line, you've just got to, like, kick the wall when all the meters go black. There are a couple of cracks on that wall. There are a couple of points where it looks like that should be the case.
Yeah.
And I always fuck that bit up. So, like, before you'd even got there, like, as soon as you got to the point of Mo tells you that she's looking for the key on the disassembled bike, I was like, okay, yeah, pull up a walkthrough for that particular bit.
That one
and we still couldn't get it, like, for 6 or 7 times.
That one in particular, I would argue there are infinitely larger cracks on that wall that seem like much more obviously what would be being described.
And seemingly at eye level as well, for your character.
Right.
But, yeah, like, that is just absolute bullshit. The solution with the Ride of the Valkyries bunnies is, not the worst thing in the world, which is why, like, I didn't immediately go, hey, I'm going to tell you the first time through.
No, it's just, again, the UI fought against the solution.
And also, like, sometimes that, because I think it's random,
yes,
it means that, like, even if you know the answer to the puzzle, sometimes 12 bunnies is not enough to get across that minefield.
Yes, there was that one where the first time where I was doing the correct solution.
Yeah.
And there were, like, 4 bunnies in a row that took, like, 1 step.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, this is not getting me anywhere.
Yeah.
And I wasn't doing anything wrong, the randomization just fucked me over.
Yep. And, agreed that, like, clicking on like, that save point up on the minefield, I think because it's trying to also be, hey, look at the minefields.
Yeah, but that's the problem, is, like, they didn't have a way to visually go, I'm trying to click precisely here, not for this thing.
And you do end up, as you say, just sort of brute force, click, 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 and until you literally find somewhere that will make him walk a little bit further.
Yeah.
By the way, for anyone who hasn't played it, I should point out that the bunnies are, like, mechanical. They're not.
Yes.
But and also they definitely survived till the end.
Everything's
The
fine.
end credit says.
Everything's fine. But yeah, Full Throttle. Fun time. Glad I had you co-piloting. What about you? What you been playing this week?
I have been playing a lot of Deep Rock Galactic Survivor.
You have, yeah.
Yeah, so we've talked about this a few times before. This is a Vampire Derivers type game in the Deep Rock Galactic universe. This came out, I think, last September, last August. Mm-hmm. After a Steam Next Fest at some point. Like, they did a demo with, like, a few missions with all the base characters, which I played to death.
Yep, same.
And then they sort of released into early access with all 4 dwarfs, 3 biomes, and, like, just a lot of, like, meta upgrades that you could get.
Yeah.
Those sort of, like, between missions, permanently upgrade various things. And since then, a few things have changed. I think I talked last time about this, about the fact that they had slightly rebalanced the way those meta upgrades work. There was now, like, instead of you just collect minerals from the level, there's also, like, a whole other sort of set of missions you can do, which will earn you little power cores, and those power cores are also needed as well as the minerals and the cash to get those meta upgrades. Or at least for some of those meta upgrades. And I have basically got to a point now where I've done most of the do a mission to get a core upgrade thing. Mm-hmm. But also there's something else with that as well, because each of these little mini missions you do, they're only like 3 levels rather than the usual 5. Because you basically do, rather than the Vampire Survivors thing of you just have like half an hour, go do your thing. This is, the default game system is you go across 5 different levels, each getting progressively harder, and at the end you will fight a dreadnought. And if you survive the dreadnought, get to the dropship and be evacuated. And you have to like get to drop pods at the end of every level, otherwise you get left behind and you cannot proceed any further. No. It's a really nice spin on Vampire Survivors, which I think, that's not the only one of those games, but it certainly, I think, is one of the best and most beloved.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of people, I feel like, have tried to copy that, but I don't think anyone really has done a super good job. I've played a lot of them now.
It's the one I've really stuck with.
Yeah, it's the one I keep coming back to as well, and I think I like Deep Rock Galactic Survivor for the fact that it is different enough, and it is still in that early access phase that Vampire Survivors went through of, you're just gonna there's still stuff being added to it, so it's worth popping back now and again because there's going to be new and interesting stuff. So beyond the ways of powering up weapons by doing short 3-mission dives with you get one weapon and you have it is the weapon you're trying to power up. You've got 5 different difficulty levels, same as any of the others, and you can dive in at 5 if you're feeling brave, and you will get the highest possible upgrade. And most of them are just damage. Some of them might be damage and potency of your damage over time things, your elemental attacks.
Yeah.
So the potency affects things like the ability of cold weapons to freeze things, acid weapons to poison things, fire weapons to burn things. And I'm a big fan of that as just a whole different way of doing damage stuff. They've been a fun little challenge of just going through all the different weapons, trying to do a one weapon run with each of the different weapons, and going, actually, this weapon does get really powerful if you just plumb enough into it.
Yeah.
Because there's a few, the starting weapon for the base scout that does, I think that's the starting weapon for the base scout. It's the gun that shoots in 4 directions at once.
Yes.
And it feels really weak at first. Because it only shoots in 4 very specific directions that do not change, so you have to line yourself up perfectly.
Yeah.
The same with the engineer's shotgun. You have to point forward towards what you want to attack, which is difficult when you want to have your back against things while you're mining a lot. But there's also biome mastery now, where you do a 10 mission run. So you'll do five first 5 missions. The 5th one will be fight a dreadnought, but then you'll be doing a continued drop from there, another 5, and the 4 of those will be potentially a double elite at the end, rather than just one boss at the end of each run. And then at the end of that again, you'll also have to fight another dreadnought.
Yeah.
Just to go, I'm really good at this particular biome. And to be honest, being able to go up to 10 drops means you feel like an absolute badass, because it does really hit that Vampire Survivors thing of, I managed to get all of the weapons. I managed to get all of them up to the most powerful overclocks and potentially beyond. They've added loads of new the things you get out of the drop pods, which are special bonus items that might be things like every time you get some red sugar, you get an extra permanent max HP, or things that will do more damage if you stayed still or moved around a lot, things that increase your ability to dodge, things that give you XP, a potential for just finding XP while mining. There's loads of new ones for that, and because there is a mission to unlock basically every single one of those, do 5 different types of damage in one drop, which is relatively easy if you know the weapons well enough, and that will unlock a whole extra one of those. I like that there are so many little goals to go for, and that they keep adding more, because I think with the original version of this, before they added all the extra missions and before they changed the way you do the meta upgrades, I kind of felt like I'd finished it already. But now there is so many more reasons to just go back in there and chip away at it and unlock extra stuff.
Yeah.
Which I have, I've done like 3 or 4 times with original Vampire Survivors. Just like, I'm going to reset my save and do the whole thing again.
Mm-hmm.
Which has been fun. But yeah, this has been nice to have a go through, and it looks very good. It's very pretty. I am impressed that a 3D Vampire Survivors game runs that well.
Indeed.
What about you? What else have you played?
I've been playing a game that I'm going to describe it, and it's going to sound like the least for you thing I've maybe ever described on this show.
Okay.
And it is better than it sounds, but the only accurate way to describe it is to make it sound terrifying. So the game is called I Am Your Beast.
I have seen posts about this on TikTok from the creator.
This is from Xavier Nelson, who is the person who did Clickholding, was the last thing he did. The definitely not wanking in a hotel room game. Oh yeah, this guy farms games. I don't know how he produces games at the speed he does.
Right.
But it's another game from him, and it is. What if Superhot wasn't in slow motion and also had Mirror's Edge style parkouring?
Wait, explain the Superhot without the slow motion.
Okay, so you know how Superhot is very much like, your ability to kill people is very quick. You are in puzzle-like environments where you're trying to efficiently kill enemies by I shoot a couple of bullets, I ran out of bullets, I throw the gun at the enemy's face, they're stunned for a second, I run over and punch someone and that kills them. The enemies that you're fighting are not going to resist much damage from you, but you're having to keep changing up your tools mid-fight, just whatever is to-hand, grab it, keep fighting.
But without the slow motion. That sounds like you've got to be very good and skilled.
It does, and it's not as bad as that sounds in that regard, because
it sounds like my friend Pedro.
Yeah, because here's the thing. The problem with describing it as Superhot but without the slow motion is Superhot, you get hit with one bullet, you're dead. It was very unforgiving in that regard, and the slow motion was what made it playable. This is much more forgiving in the amount of damage you can take, and much more generous in giving you health.
Right.
So, it's got the flow of a Superhot fight, but without the slow motion, but while being more forgiving of the damage you can take. So you are doing that sort of ballet of fighting your way through people with improvised weapons, dancing your way through the fight.
Okay.
But also there is Mirror's Edge-esque parkour where you're running into a map, running along phone telephone wires, even though that makes no fucking sense, leaping down on enemies from above, from the pole you were on top of, running up trees, to be haha, I run down and punch you in the head and you're dead. So the narrative of the game is basically, you're being chased down by the military-industrial complex, and the best sense I have at this point of why that is you were supposed to be doing a job with them. You watched 2 of these military types shoot a dog in the head for no fucking reason, and went, not on my fucking watch, and you go on a revenge murder spree.
Right.
Going nah, fuck this, I'm gonna go kill all of these paramilitary types.
Mm-hmm. Take that, the Pinkertons.
Yeah, so all of these levels are maybe 3 minutes long. They're all pretty short, and the idea is, kill all of these military types that are on the map, and then get the fuck out and escape through a little hatch. And, the objectives might be a little different, but generally it's get in, kill all the guys, get out, and do it fast. And then at the end you see, a little replay of, the path you took, and you get told, depending on how quick you did, you get ranking, and you could, try and replay that mission with, I worked out a better route of how to tackle these enemies, or, I think I could do that more efficiently to get a better score. But fundamentally, as long as you kill the enemies and get out, the game will continue. You can just play through it without having to be terribly efficient. In that, the game is very generous about, healing plants and health packs fucking everywhere. The negative to taking them is you have to take a second to go grab it off a table or whatever, or to go run it and get it. Mm-hmm. It's the fact it'll take time to heal yourself is the negative to healing, rather than punishing you for needing healing.
Right.
And it's generally just this very fast-paced action murder ballet of feel very overpowered as all of these military types are around, and you're like you're running into the base just being like, hello, punch you in the head, you're dead, grab a knife, stab you, grab your gun, just shoot a couple of things, throw the gun at your face, find a bear trap on the floor, throw it at that man, it clamps on his face, run away down a drain.
So 3D first-person real-time fights in tight spaces?
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm having fun with it, despite sucking at it. I'm good enough at the game to complete a level and move to the next level, not good enough to get a good time on it. But I'm still having fun with it.
It's not gating you for not having enough S ranks or something?
And even if I get like a really bad time and progress, I still feel like, relative to my skill set, I was an overpowered badass. I killed like 30 army guys with largely my fists and occasionally like 2 bullets from a gun.
That feels like how I got through most of my friend Pedro.
Yeah.
Like, I was enjoying it, and it felt really cool, but I did sort of sit there thinking, somebody with better, like, Twitch skills than I can probably make this look fucking amazing.
Exactly, and that feeling, I do have a bit of it. I do have a bit of my friend Pedro, my friend Pedro feeling with it, where I'm like, I'm having fun. I'm much more interested to watch other people's ridiculous fucking kill cam playthroughs, because I am not the person who can get the most out of this game, but I still do enjoy the silly little power fantasy that it is.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that it's not as punishing as my initial feeling of this feels like super hot but there's no slowdown made me kind of panic for a second, but I'm having fun with it.
Yeah.
I am your beast. What about you? You played anything else this week?
I went back and played some more Warhammer 40k Bolt Gun, a game that I say I went back and played more of, despite never having talked about on this show before, because I got to a point, got really stuck, and then apparently put it down for a year before coming back to it. So yeah, this is a real Doom-style first-person 3D basic FPS, where you are a space marine and 40k stuff happens. I don't know anything really about 40k. I don't understand most of the lore. I am playing it simply because I quite enjoy Doom, really. It's something I grew up with. It certainly like scratches that itch by virtue of having the sprite-based enemies and scenery that if you look at a thing and walk around it, it will keep following you because it's definitely there, which has a certain charm to it. It like the guns feel good and powerful and bizarre. The enemy design for me is quite interesting. I'm sure people who know more about 40k are like, oh yeah, it's one of them. I just your like Navi thing, which just, I don't know what it is. It looks like a torch with a face on it. And I imagine it has kind of a Karen voice. And it's like, oh, look at the decor here. Heresy, purge all the heresy. I want to speak to your manager about how much heresy is going on in this insert building. I don't know if they have added this since I played it originally, but there is now an ability to just press N and it will tell you where you need to be going in the level.
Hooray!
Because there was at least a couple of times when I previously played it where I would get in a level and just get fucking lost. And it feels like it wants to do like a Doom-style amazing level design, but it misses out by maybe overcomplicating things or just making an area too big or not explaining its mechanics terribly well. Like, it keeps wanting to do, like, little horde mode sections where it'll, like, you'll go into an area, it'll be a big wide open space, and you'll go, I think this is probably going to be a, like, Purge the Heresy type thing happening. It will lock all the doors behind you, and you will basically have to kill most of the enemies in a room. But what it doesn't really explain to you is kind of, if you stay still, eventually most of them will just come to you. It will take them a while to pass to you. And it can be very easy to get sort of stuck in an area because you've dared to just, like, try and run around and find the things. And they are, in the meantime, stuck trying to find you. So, yeah, that's less than ideal. Especially since you can jump over large gaps and they might not be able to. So they're then pathing back potentially quite a long way to try and find you again. And you just keep missing each other. You know how it is.
Yeah.
some of the areas do just feel a bit too large for their own good, but as someone who enjoys that like classic style, I think they've captured it really well, and I very much appreciate the ability to just press N and get a navigation point, even though there is one level that decided wanted to do a whole Escher thing, and that's visually very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, I would never have worked out how to get out of that level on my own. Second of all, the navigation function really fucking struggles.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Work around that, because like you basically go through a room to a teleport, and it will seem like you feel like you're walking along the same little bit of ground, but you're absolutely not. You're walking along like different versions of basically the same thing. And after you've killed all the enemies in that room and gone, maybe I fucked up, there's one bit where you come out of a teleport, and I don't know what it is, but you just get nudged ever so slightly forward, and that makes you fall down a hole that is immediately outside the teleport. And because of where you land at the end of that, you have to do a loop back round the entire thing to get back to where you were, and make sure that you do not touch anything that might push you off the edge, so that you can jump across it and get to the next area where you do have to fall down a hole. It is... Some of the level design is, like, ridiculous and frustrating, and that's a shame, because the gunplay feels good, and the enemies are fun. I like using the chainsword. I like the fact that it does, like, a little slowdown, and then you can, just use your chainsword to do, a big sort of, almost... I feel like it wants to be Doom 2016.
Yeah.
It feels like it is desperately trying to do that, with not as good music, but still pretty good music. And maybe someone who knows more about Warhammer would have got more out of it. But yeah, I am enjoying it for all the grumbling I'm doing. I have just finished chapter 1.
Yeah.
Woo! What about you? You played anything else?
Not really. At least not anything I can talk about yet.
Secrets.
Yeah. Ooh, secrets. What about you? You played anything else you want to talk about?
That's it for me.
Well then,
time for this.
Hey, Jane.
Yes?
Is that a disco ball in the living room?
What are you talking about?
Well, that thing. The one in the bathroom. Is that a disco ball in the bathroom?
No. That is the latest cleaning product.
Oh.
You've heard of Roomba. You've heard of other cleaning devices. This is
the Devastator.
Ooh.
It's basically like a laser array that will destroy dirt and grime and grease and spills the second they happen.
Ooh.
So anything that happens to be dirty will just be
destroyed.
Oh.
Utterly destroyed.
Ooh.
And and there's one in every room, all set up. And now just whenever there is like a cat hair that falls down, laser, gone.
Ooh.
Gone.
Ooh.
It's gone. There's no dirt, there's no dust. There's no loose skin cells.
What if I spill a stain on myself?
Well, that's fine. It would just be zapped off. It would be completely eradicated. Completely
devastated.
Do you eat food?
Yeah.
Do you sometimes feel that you've got something stuck in your teeth?
Yeah.
Do you sort of reach for it with your tongue and it's just literally not where you're reaching?
Yeah.
Do you sometimes then go in with a finger and you definitely can't find it somehow?
Yeah.
Like you can feel it with your tongue, but you then can't translate that into touching it with your nail or whatever, or a toothpick or something?
Yeah.
Try Mouth GPS. It'll direct you to wherever that thing is lodged within your mouth with absolute accuracy within 3 meters. Mouth GPS.
I feel like 3 meters is a wide range.
Do you want mouth what 3 words?
Oh god, no.
Mouth GPS. It's available. So, what have you put in your eyes?
We put a few things in our eyes. Should we talk about the film we saw this week together?
We shall.
We saw Beetlejuice Beetlejuice.
Beetlejuice? Beetlejuice?
No, that was all my... that's too many drops of the name. Yes, we saw the new Beetlejuice film. Surprisingly positive feelings about it with some caveats. And I think, one very easy caveat we can get out of the way is this is a Tim Burton production.
And he really is trying to escape from those claims of racism, isn't he?
I don't know how good a job he's doing of it.
He's not.
He's,
There's a good few scenes where there's like, okay, we're going to put an Asian person and a black person right next to each other, and then we're going to pan out, and the rest of everyone else you're going to see is white. So it means you will have seen them first in a scene, but by the end of this panning shot, or pulling out shot, you will not be able to spot them amongst all these white faces.
It's mainly notable the places that this film does see larger amounts of non-white representation.
Yes.
Because there are some dubious choices about where to make that change happen.
The Soul Train.
Yeah.
Don't you get it? The Soul Train. It's a train for souls.
Don't you get it? The Soul Train. This is the one scene where you're allowed to have a reasonable number of non-white people.
A number of black people who are dancing on a train platform.
That they are.
Because it's the Soul Train. They're going to make that reference twice, just so you really get it.
They're going to really hammer it home. Do you get it? The Soul Train. Do you
it's
get
the Soul
it?
Train.
Other than that, like, I think my biggest complaint about the film, and it's like, it's not enough that, I want to be clear, I had a very good time with this film. I think the film's biggest other problem is just that it sets up a lot of plot threads, and admittedly they all ultimately do tie together, but there's some of them that when they all come together at the conclusion, you go, you set up a problem and then it was super easy, barely an inconvenience for it to be resolved.
Oh, I'm very much looking forward to the...
Yeah, like, I'm not going to name characters, but there's one character who is introduced as if they're going to be a big threat, and then upon, like, reaching the character they would be a big threat with, like, seconds later the problem's solved. There's a couple of those plot threads that build up film long for not really a satisfying payoff.
Yeah, like, Monica Bellusci's character is set up as this big bad who then, like, gets talked about a decent amount.
Yeah.
But isn't really seen an awful lot.
She's a big
to the point
threat.
where there are several points in the film where it's just like, are we getting back to this
She's
plot?
a big threat. She's a big threat. She's going to be such a big threat when she arrives. They do fucking nothing with
So
her.
really,
But I think, like, it's a little thing, but, like, generally speaking, I thought it was a pretty good follow-up to a film of that age. Very impressed with how they worked around, what's the actor's name? Jeffrey, played the dad in
the original.
Played the dad in the original. Turns out, he's a paedophile. He does not come back for the new film.
Indeed. As is only correct. He gets bitten in half by a shark.
Indeed. There are two ways they get around having him back in this film. The first is an artistic thing they do for a little sequence, and, like, that's quite artistic. Like, I like the art style they go with.
Mm.
And then he gets his head bitten off by a shark, and he's now just a gurgling torso. Therefore, you can have someone else voice him, and it sounds close enough. You're not really going to question it.
I mean, I think the thing with this is, like, almost immediately at the start of the film, they're like, oh, Dad's dead.
Yes.
And I'm like, of course he's dead. They're not going to bring him back, I would fucking hope. And then, like, then it obviously occurs to me in the thing of the film that's a whole extra issue you've got to fix, because you can't just go, he's dead. I feel like they would have done a better job to just go, he left, we don't talk to him anymore.
I mean,
he's a terrible person.
They could have gone, he died and he got fast-tracked to like, super hell because it turned out he was bad or something.
Yeah.
Like, they could have found an excuse to work around it. Because when the film's premise starts with him being dead, I was like, oh yeah, of course that's how they write him out. But to go, no, we're not writing his character out. Don't be foolish. His character's going to be a major driving force of the movie. I was like, I respect the hell out of that choice, and I love artistically how they pulled it off.
Yeah, I just hope that nothing to do with likeness rights in Hollywood means that he's going to get any money out of it.
I don't imagine that they'd have done this if they couldn't go, this is a way to do it without paying.
I would hope not, because the claymation scene at the beginning made me sort of wonder, is this going to be something that's going to come up under likeness rights? But I do not know the legalities around this film.
I mean,
either way, I'm just glad he wasn't actually in it.
Indeed. There was something you said about this film that I thought was really neat, which was about, like, the realization of the art style from the first film.
Yeah, because we talked about the original last week's episode. A thing that I mentioned at that time was that some of the scenery felt a bit last minute, a bit student film, a bit, like, not as good as it felt like it needed to be.
The budget and technology weren't necessarily where they needed to be to bring what was clearly a strong artistic vision to light.
Yeah, and this, interestingly, uses very, at least, if not the same, certainly very similar shots, very, very similar backgrounds, but the difference is that those backgrounds have, like, just a little bit of weathering on it.
Yes.
And that means that it makes it look more natural, more lived in, more realistic, despite being unreal and dreamlike and surreal. But also, like, I think it glues the film together better.
Yeah. It feels less like a film that could only afford to do this art style to, like, 3 different rooms and has to reuse those rooms because that's the only ones it's got in the art style.
They have to be clean.
Yes. It feels like a realization of, like, really properly expanding out the logical endpoint of a world having that art style, and that's pretty cool. I like some of the choices they make about the things they do keep visually similar to the original.
Like the claymation sandworm?
Yes, the stop-motion sandworm I think was a great choice.
Yeah.
For any points where I thought that the film was, like, maybe a little predictable on some of its plot points, I can't deny, I respect the hell out of the fact that it didn't just try and retread the structure of the first film.
Yeah, it wasn't trying to do Star Wars Episode 7.
I think that they did a great job with a lot of the performances.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that Willem Dafoe's character was a perfect casting for Willem Dafoe.
Yep.
A character whose job is to ham it up, stop for a second and go, did I ham it up enough? No, I should have hammed it up more, and then keep hamming it up.
Because I'm an actor.
I'm an actor. I'm an actor. It's perfect role for him. It's wonderful. I think that, what's the guy's name who plays Beetlejuice? I'm forgetting his
Michael
name.
Keaton.
Michael Keaton. I think Michael Keaton dials back, whether it's because he's forced to, because he's older, or as a deliberate choice, he dials back the speed and the franticness of the Beetlejuice performance, like, I'd say like 15%.
Yeah.
And I think it's all the better for it.
It's still very much Beetlejuice. It's still used car salesman, but it's more... It's less overwhelming on a sensory basis.
I made the comparison to you that it was like going from season 1 to season 2 of Star Trek Lower Decks.
Yeah.
It no longer felt like the performance was, I have to squeeze as many jokes into a sentence as I can, and if I stop talking for even a second, they're going to fire me. It's a little less of that, allowed the franticness to be taken in better, and I think it was to its credit.
Agreed.
Yeah. Generally, I was pretty pleased with that film. I thought it was... It's felt like the most artistic effort a Tim Burton thing has had put into it in a while.
I did love that one person who reviewed it and said that it's like it felt like a Tim Burton making an effort.
Yes, the first time that Tim Burton's felt like he's made an effort in 30 years. And I was like, I don't disagree with that review. It's nice to see him go, I'm not just going to stick Helena Bonham Carter in a thing and set it in Victorian London.
I was so happy not to see Helena Bonham Carter in this film.
Exactly. No Helena Bonham Carter set in Victorian London. I'm like, you've still got ideas, Mr. Burton.
You did, like, nab Wednesday.
Yes, yeah, a little bit. But, I mean, look, I'll forgive that because I got to see Danny DeVito become an accordion.
Yes.
And, there's a lot of things I'll forgive for
I was so glad I was like, from the second it came on screen, I was like, that's got to be DeVito. It can only be DeVito.
Yeah. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. I was surprised at how good a sequel to a nearly 40-year-old film was.
It's a fun romp. Visually, it's... The kind of thing that will keep the Hot Topic cute kiddies, such as myself, going, yeah, I'll watch that again. Like, if someone suggested watching it, I'd be like, yeah, that's fine, stick it on.
Yeah.
I don't think I would necessarily go out of my way to watch it again for a long time.
If we had friends around and they were like, I was really meaning to watch that, I'd go, I'm happy to rewatch it so that you can see it.
I also don't think it necessarily needs a big screen, so you won't feel bad for missing it and wait until it's on streaming.
It's got enough, like, very big, bold, bright details that I think it will stand up well to a small screen.
Yeah.
But yeah, what about you? What have you watched this week or put in your eyes?
That's pretty much it for me. It's been a very limited watching week.
I put a couple of other things in my eyes I can very quickly talk about. I watched the reveal for the PlayStation 5 Pro that happened today, and I can sum that up real quickly. It's £700, £800 if you want a stand and a disk drive.
It's $699, isn't it?
Yeah. It's $699 plus I think 30 for a stand and 80 for a disk drive. So like it's over £800.
Is it slimmer, shorter?
It's, from what I can tell, like it's the same thickness as the standard PS5, might be a bit taller. But yeah, it
was already too wide for most people's, like, media centres.
A little bit. But yeah, the problem with the pitch for it is, it was a lot of wishy-washy, not giving, like, a clear sales pitch for what it does that is good. Because, like, you know, whether you could actually say this or not, like, if you're getting up into, like, 800 quid, you need to be able to make a one-sentence pitch for this thing that's something like, basically, you want to be able to say, like, every game on the platform will play at 60 FPS. If it's currently a 30 FPS game, we'll upscale it to 60 FPS. Or, like, whatever it is, that one thing that goes, this is the concrete reason that I'm paying £800. The problem is, they kept trying to show gameplay of PS5 games next to PS5 Pro versions of the games.
Right.
Through YouTube's encoding bitrate on a live stream. That, like, it was a 1080p live stream.
Oh, Jesus.
With bitrate issues, trying to tell you...
It's definitely 4K, everyone.
Trying to show you, like, minute visual differences between games. And that is just not the right way to show this thing.
No, you need, like, is it Tech Radar or Digital Foundry that do the like... Here is the clock speed. Here is numbers.
This is what I was saying. Is like you need to, if you're getting up toward the point where you could build a gaming PC, you need to be talking about this the way you talk about gaming PCs. You get Digital Foundry in, and you get them to do, like, maybe it's a counterpart piece, or maybe it's like, hey, we got Digital Foundry to run some benchmarks. Here's what they gave us.
Yeah.
To go, this game is running at a locked 60 FPS. And, like, the pixel count is looking like this. To give, like, some numbers to it?
Yeah, because as it is, the technology doesn't exist, at least in this stream, to go, look at them side by side. You can tell that, like, this one is dramatically better. Well, and the problem is, it isn't. It's just, like...
Well, what they could have done is, and I'm surprised they didn't, is put a lossless video version of this uploaded somewhere that you can go download and see... full quality what that difference in visuals looks like.
Doesn't YouTube have 4K 60?
It does, but it's not like lossless 4K.
Right.
It's there is a degree of compression and encoding for saving YouTube money streaming it to you.
Yeah, like it feels like maybe this should have been locally hosted on like Sony's servers to just go, you can watch it here completely lossless. Yeah,
like some solution for getting a lossless version into people's hands. But, like, the other problem about the pitching is they almost had a pitch for, like, what the pitch for this is right now, with PS5, a lot of games you are making the choice between a frame rate mode that runs at 60 FPS, or a graphics mode where we turn all the fancy visual effects like ray tracing, and you're having to make an either-or choice, and they almost made the pitch... With PS5 Pro, you won't have to make the decision. It'll run at 60 FPS with the fancy graphics settings. But they kept having to water their wording in a way that really hurt that as a pitch.
Right.
Like, I will try and give some examples as best I can remember the wording off the top of my head. It was pretty close to this. It was things like, we hope to make it with the PS5 Pro so that you won't have to decide... Or that if you have to decide, the gap will be smaller.
We're talking about the difference between performance versus...
They were like, like they started with like, you won't have to decide. You'll be able to have a mode that does both. You won't have to decide between either graphics or frame rate. Or maybe you will, but like you'll only be losing a little bit of frame rate or a little bit of visuals. It'll be an easier choice at least.
Because this is the thing when the original PS5 first came out, like they were telling you had to put this was filmed in
which mode it was filmed in. Yeah.
I remember that particularly for the Spider-Man footage.
Yeah. The other one I remember, the other thing they said was on that regard was something like. It looks almost as good as 60 FPS with the graphics settings. It was so many like little caveats, because the reason they're having to caveat this is it seems like they want most games to run at 4K 60 with an asterisk, and that asterisk is it's not going to be running locally, natively at 4K 60. it will be that there is a new chip on this on the PS5 Pro that is similar to the thing in new NVIDIA graphics cards
DLSS?
that lets you do DLSS. They have their proprietary equivalent to DLSS, which they will use to get the resolution looking basically at 4K. And the reason they had to say it'll look almost as good as 4K is because it won't, like, playing it in graphics mode with true 4K on a PS5 will look better than a game upscaled to 4K.
Yeah.
Like, upscaling to 4K will never look quite as good as 4K. So they're having to go, like, you can play it at 60 frames a second, almost as good looking as 4K. And that weaseling around wording was like, they really struggled to find a definitive, not backtracking from themselves sentence where you can go, you sound confident that that's the reason I should buy it.
And also, I imagine, like, a lot of that is going to be the difference between, hey, this is what we're aiming for first party. We absolutely cannot guarantee that third parties are going to fuck about with, this is the version that is best optimized for the Pro, but also still works
like,
on the regular.
Yeah, like, they needed to give solid examples of, here is, let's say, Spider-Man 2. Right now you have to decide between these two modes. If you play it on PS5 Pro, it'll run at 60 FPS with all the fancy settings. You'll get the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
Here's another of our
Or even if
first-party
it runs
games.
like a midpoint, like it runs faster, and with better graphics than the performance version, but not as the, what was the other version called? Like
Fidelity.
Fidelity. Yes.
Yeah. It's one of the most, like, one of the biggest flops of a
Teraflops?
flops of an announcement I've seen in a while. It really felt like Sony didn't have that, like, one sentence, this is why this is cool.
I feel like
pitched
this
down.
is part of the problem that we have sort of approached generally over the last few years anyway, because we had that whole thing where, because the last generation of consoles didn't have the best graphics cards, a lot of games were releasing perfectly playable and still beautiful in 1080p, because there was no point making a game for Xbox and PlayStation. Was it 360 the last one?
Xbox One.
Xbox One and PS4, because like there was no point making, for the most part, making like 4K versions. Like some of them did get ported to PC with 4K versions. And some of them were fine for that. And others were like, we've half-assed it, and for whatever reason, the fans are going to need to mod it and fix it on PC. Because that's just how it is sometimes. And then, like, even when the NVIDIA 40 series came out, like, yeah, you can play things in 4K, and if you've put the money into it, you can get a monitor that will refresh at 120 or whatever. And maybe if you've got everything else behind it and you've built it like a £3,000 system, you can, get a 4K ultra wide monitor, 120 whatever game. But for the most part, most games looks absolutely fine and played really well, like solid 30 FPS, solid 1080p.
Yeah,
and maybe even 60.
Yeah,
on PC, it didn't feel like it was worth it. And for all they have tried to do with 4K, like this generation, it doesn't feel like the fact that most games on PC are still coming out with, you can still play it on a 1070.
Yeah.
Which is, like, considered just this ridiculous workhorse that's, 5, 6 years, 7 years old now?
Yeah.
I think it is harder to sell people on, especially, like, given how fucked most people are financially anyway, to go, buy our fancy new thing, it's got whizzier graphics. How much whizzier graphics? Because I can, like the fact that I recently played through Control and just went, I'll turn the RTX off, because it's not making much difference. Like, sure, it looks whizzy, and I'm still playing with, like, a fancier version than I did the last time, but, like, it's not making a significant enough difference that it's worth going, I'm gonna burn through this graphics card.
There's one other thing I watched this week that I thought was interesting, that we finished watching literally just before recording. Really interesting YouTube video called The Cancelled 3DS Successor.
Oh, yes.
By a YouTube channel called Rare Gaming Dump. And this is based on a bunch of things that were recently unearthed from the Nintendo Giga Leak from a few years ago, talking about using a bunch of documents to reference the original plan for what would have been the 3DS successor that eventually became the Switch, but was a very different thing at one point in the middle. Without, like, going into all the specifics, the short version is, at one point there was a device that was like, what if the 3DS had a Wii U's CPU shoved inside it, and you could play it on the TV, but the way you played it on the TV was via Miracast, the thing that you used to put, like, your phone footage on the TV by, like, putting it through the Wi-Fi wirelessly onto the screen.
Yeah.
Which, the big problem that has is potential input latency, because there is no standards on Miracast as a protocol for checking if like you've gotten out of sync and like lag has begun to happen and like catching itself back up. So you could get like input lag could develop without being like there being much in the way of like noticing it's happening and course correcting.
Yeah.
But the idea of a wirelessly broadcasting like a handheld kind of like the Switch, maybe it's two screens that you could broadcast to the TV wirelessly. Not the most ridiculous thing to imagine, given that the Wii U, you know, the range on it wasn't great, but that was fundamentally what the Wii U was doing in reverse. Yeah. It was broadcasting to your hands.
Yeah.
There is some interesting stuff to do with the patent for the oval-shaped the oval-shaped games console that got that very widely circulated fake NX image out of it. The oval with the screen on it where the analog sticks are, like, inside the oval screen.
Like, you can see how, like, some of that stuff got the traction it did in the, like, rumour mill around the NX.
Yeah, and it's interesting to see. There is a genuine mock-up in this documentary of, oh yeah, one of the 3DS successor revisions before the Switch happened genuinely was making use of that patent, and like, here is what the 3DS that broadcast to your TV might have looked like. It could have been that weird oval. Very interesting dive into the journey that led to the Switch happening. I think maybe my favourite takeaway is that the Switch fundamentally was developed and released within 2 years, which is fucking ridiculously small for a console life cycle. 2 years before the Switch...
You can see how it ended up being so easily piratable.
Yeah, 2 years before the Switch was released, there was an oval that broadcast to your TV that was all custom components, and then Nvidia said, here's a chip, it's off the shelf, do you want to use this? And suddenly the whole plan shifted on very little notice.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that it worked really well for Nintendo, but it does make me really fascinated. Nintendo, with having had, like, actual, like, 7 or 8 years to plan your successor, rather than trying to cobble it together in 2, what can you do this time? I'm very curious.
Yes.
If Nintendo was smart, they will announce the Switch 2 right away, because if they can announce it while people still have £700 or £800 for a PS5 Pro in their head, seeing like £400 for a Switch 2 is going to make people go, oh, that's a fucking bargain, it's next gen and it's like half the price. I think that's like the best fucking marketing Nintendo could do right now, is just jump on that grenade.
Is it going to be next gen, or is it going to be certainly a gen ahead for the Switch?
Well, I mean, here's the thing. A gen ahead for the Switch will probably put it in line with it can run stuff. Like, if you're making a game for the Xbox Series S, you could probably make a port for the Switch. Okay. And, like, that's that sweet spot you want to hit, is if people are, you know, if your games have to downscale to be Xbox Series S playable, maybe that's at the upper end of what you can get a Switch 2 to run. You can just about find a nice parity there.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what the specs of that are actually going to be. I'm not gonna speculate on it. I will wait until someone comes with actual numbers.
Indeed, but it's coming infinitely closer. We know,
and your leaking days are over, so I won't expect it from you anytime soon.
It's been a while, but if anything like actually credible falls across my desk, I'll let you know. Whether I'll let everyone else know what I know, we'll see.
It's just too much hassle.
If I can put up with
can
the
I put up with the internet? Yeah.
But yeah, that's about everything I've looked at this week.
Well then,
time for this.
Hey Laura.
Yes?
We've got a new sponsor.
Who's our new sponsor?
Well, do you sometimes have, like, a thing in the pipeline.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, I'm going to tell people about the thing that I've got in the pipeline.
Yeah, ooh, I got secret shit going on. At some point I'll be able to tell you about the secret shit.
Yeah, and then do you find that every single time thereafter that you talk about anything at all, people are like in your comments going, hey, the thing?
Is it time?
Is the thing coming now?
The thing? Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
That is the natural consequence of hyping up shit.
Indeed.
Before you're able to actually talk about it.
So what if there was just a unplugin that basically adds there will be no update on the other announcement at this time to all of your social posts?
Well, that sounds awfully convenient. I hope it's our new sponsor.
Well, today's sponsor is nottoday.lol.net, which basically says, not today, about the other things.
Yeah.
But for this thing right now that I'm talking about, this is the thing.
Yeah, but that
Pay
other
attention
thing,
to this thing. The other thing, nebulous.
Not right now.
It's coming, don't worry.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah.
But not today.
Not today.
Not today.lol.net. Enter the code Q&PS 320. It's disappointing in 100 ways. Inside the boardroom of Supremacy Software.
Hi.
Hi.
So, I like money.
Love it. Love money. Love money. I've had enough of not having money or losing money.
Exactly. So, I want more money.
Same.
We've not been getting as much money as I would have wanted. We got that very expensive high graphics next gen console we released.
Yeah, and I thought with all the people, like touting that stuff that we were going to make, a huge amount of money.
Everyone said I want more graphics, so we gave them more graphics, and then not enough of them bought the very expensive more graphics.
Yeah, I mean, admittedly, most of them couldn't get hold of them, but we did sell a huge amount to people who were just trying to, flip them. So if nothing else, we sold them.
But not enough people are buying them. And, some of the people downstairs have been like, oh, it's because they cost too much, blah, 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 blah. I think that's bullshit.
Yeah, I mean, we've released, cheap, slim versions of our consoles before. And, but what if not that?
And, obviously the price isn't the problem, because, what's $500? That's like throwing in the trash money. That's wipe your ass money.
Yeah.
So, how could that be too much for anyone?
Right.
So, in my mind, if the very expensive, very high-end graphics console isn't selling well enough, it's not the money, because that's, chump change.
Right.
The problem's gotta be, it's not fancy graphics, high-end fancy graphics enough.
We need more teraflops.
Yeah, we need more teraflops, more gigawatts, more anti-aliasings.
Yeah.
I reckon, whatever it costs, don't even care about price. We make one that's got more graphics.
Yeah.
More graphics, probably more money, but, what does that even matter? More graphics.
Exactly. I mean, people are willing to pay for more graphics.
Yeah, and I reckon we do that. That fixes our sales problems. I think that the slow-selling console will sell way better when it is more expensive with more graphics.
Yeah, I mean, as long as we can put more teraflops and more FIPS and more of that other stuff.
Pixels, I've heard pixels.
Yeah, and the other ones. All that stuff. That's going to be great. And what if we also made it, slightly more unwieldy?
I mean, of course, unwieldy means you've got to put effort into it.
Yeah, I want it to look like the Tower of Barad-dûr, as long as you're willing to pay an additional $50 for a stand.
Exactly. Otherwise, it's the knocked over tower. You see.
Yeah, it's like a weird wavy thing, and also because we're going to make this one bigger. The old side panels that you bought to customize it, they're not going to fit anymore. You're going to have to buy more custom side panels if you want, the alpha male black and gold version.
You're a fucking genius.
I know. So, what have you put in your ears?
Not a lot this week. It's been a very watching and playing busy week.
Same.
We did go out and listen to so we heard some music outside.
We did. We went to a relatively recent, I think, rave that is designed specifically for being sober.
Yeah.
It was nice to see an event that was very queer.
Yeah.
That had I would say a much greater gender parity than I've seen at
Yeah.
a lot of the more low-budget raves.
Yeah, and also I would say, like, queer events. It was nice to have, like, a queer event with a good gender parity.
Yes.
That was that was a sober event.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was nice to see an event that was, like, very deliberately, this is a safe space environment to be like, hey, do you enjoy music and having a wiggle and, like, the rave vibe?
Yeah.
But you want a space where you can trust nothing's going to be around to tempt you if you've got problems with substances. Here's a fun little rave to be at.
Yeah.
And the vibes were great.
Yeah, the vibes were great. It was nice to, like, because I've talked before, maybe not on here, but, like, about the need for spaces that are, like, specifically sober and that can be sociable and like, can be a way out. Because, like, the number of people who go, I've quit drinking because it was, I had a problem with it. And then all of a sudden they're like, I've lost touch with, like, all of my friends because they were pub friends or they were rave friends. Or they were the kind of people who go, why aren't you drinking?
Yes, well, we're all having some, go on, have a bit.
Have a bit of whatever this is.
Yeah.
So I think it is lovely that there is that space, that there is that celebration, because they were like, hey, here's another DJ. They're also sober.
Yeah.
If you go on, like, some of their event pages, they talk, like, about some of the people involved and about how long, like, that like, some of their struggles with drugs or alcohol and the problems around that, and, like, the amount of time they've been sober, and just wanting to create a space where, hey, there's like an alcohol-free bar with, like, loads of alcohol-free drinks.
Yeah.
There's, like, they're not cheap, but, like, it's London, so that you're not going to be surrounded by people who are, like, drunk. Yeah, let's be honest, usually guys.
Yeah.
Being weird around you, or, like, people just, like, the sound of, it's always the sound of someone throwing up in a toilet along from you.
Yes.
Whenever you go to a bathroom, like, it's a small venue, but the event, I should mention, was House of Happiness. It was a good time, and we were there to celebrate a friend's 2-year sober anniversary. Congratulations!
Yeah.
I think the only problem I had with it as an autistic person is I have realised that I have used various substances
A slight lack of sobriety.
Well, not necessarily, like, completely blasted, but I
just
need something to make it, like, just pad the... There's a lot of lights, there's a lot of sound, there is a lot of people brushing past me, touching, moving.
Yes, I need a little turn down on the autism dial just to... Yeah.
That is the only thing I struggled with.
Yeah,
but maybe there are other calming solutions. Maybe some CBD might be an idea.
We had a lovely time. We were there for, I think, 4 hours out of the 5-hour event, so we were there for most of it.
Yeah.
It was like, we just had to go, we know our limits, and the TISM has reached its limit eventually.
Oh, yes. But yeah, I had a lovely time. They had 4 podium dancers, specifically for, like, hey, we're just gonna announce that people are going to be dancing, and they were very good. They were some very talented little beans, very well dressed beans, and lots of queer vibes, lots of gays and lesbians and non-binary folks, and of every flavour, and and nice to just go, I do want this drink. Do you have that? I love an all-alcoholic cider. I love a really tart apple juice.
Yeah.
With a bit of whatever they put in there to make it, like, that particular type of slightly bitter.
Yes, we had some non-alcoholic ciders at the weekend, separate from this event, that was just like, it's a big, nice, sparkly, slightly tart apple juice. It's lovely.
Yeah, like a slightly tart giant appetizer.
Yeah.
But sometimes you get alcohol-free ciders that are that kind of. It just tastes like apple juice, and sometimes, like, the Kopparberg one is great. Like, if you need something that tastes like cider but is not actually alcoholic, that perfectly hits that. And do do like an alcohol-free Copperberg, and it was nice that wasn't an option. There was also like rums and things. So yeah, the House of Happiness was a very nice event.
It started with some disco and then sort of ramped up into more
House.
sort of
mostly house.
Yeah, ramped up into some house about an hour in.
Yeah. And it was good house as well. I've listened to some really shit hard house.
You would occasionally go like, there's a pop track I recognise at triple speed happening under some bass booming.
Mm-hmm.
The one that I remember particularly is the Ketchup song. I said,
Yes.
a hey, aha, a hey, a heaven to the heaven, etc. Going very fast under some drums going over them. It was a good time.
It was a good time. It was a good time with some very lovely people. And, like, there were nice places to sit down.
Yeah.
And there was a free glitter bar if you wanted to get glittered with biodegradable glitters. It was a nice time. And, I would probably do it again. I might find something for, like, emotional calming before go. Because that's the other thing. Like, even though I'm, like, not specifically non-alcoholic, I wouldn't, like, take something in there just to be like, I need this for me, blah, 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 or I have an whatever problem, and I need the thing. No, I just need to shave off some of the autism-created spiky edges.
I recognise I am autistic and going into a space that is full of things that are hard for the autism.
Lights and sounds and colours and people touching me.
There is no medication that I can take to go, I need to be better with all the sensory, so occasionally just like a little...
Just a little whatever it is that takes the edge off.
Exactly.
But would definitely recommend that if you're looking for somewhere to be that is sober and you happen to be in London.
Indeed.
They seem to... they've booked all their dates out for all of next year as well, and they seem to be pretty much monthly, so...
I imagine it's nice to have a regular going thing if you need it.
It is, and I imagine that being, like, specifically a sober event, they find it way easier to get licensing.
I bet they don't get kicked out of venues for being a bit rowdy.
One would hope not.
Yeah.
It was a nice time. Have you listened to much else?
No, that's it for me, really.
I have continued to listen through audiobooks. I continue to have the same problems I talked about last week, so I'm not going to mention names or anything about that. We have listened up to the penultimate episode of the Magnus Protocol.
Oh.
The finale came out today.
Oh.
I have not listened to it yet, but gosh, this has ramped up. It felt like the series was a bit overwhelming at the start, with so many characters and so much going on, and so much lore it was trying to jam in. And then we've had moments of, oh shit, what does this mean in this context? Moments like, is this a reference to Magnus Archives? What is happening? Where are we? Are we in a parallel world? Are we in a parallel universe? Parallel timeline? A future time? What do? Maybe we'll get some answers later tonight. I don't know. But, I think thus far they have done an amazing job. Once it settled down, I really enjoyed it, and it became a much easier recommend. I look forward to sitting down with our friends who are similarly very into Magnus and theory crafting around where, what, who, why, and how. And and I also look forward to the usual season, between season stuff of writer breakdowns and all that behind the scenes stuff, because that's always really fascinating, and they do a really good job of answering a lot of people's questions about all that good stuff.
Yeah.
But we'll probably have a lot more to talk about next week.
Indeed.
As spoiler free as can be. But that's pretty much it for me. We're still listening to The Empty Bowl. That's
sure
a great
are.
series that is harmless, and
I have very
good to
few
go to
thoughts
bed.
other than it's good to fall asleep to.
It's great to fall asleep to. It's very relaxing. They might occasionally talk about a Pop-Tart, but I don't let that rile me. It's okay. That's pretty much it for listening stuff this week.
Yeah, well then.
Time for this.
Do you sometimes find yourself and your partner struggling to make decisions?
All the time.
Do you find that by both trying to be too polite, neither of you makes a choice?
We never make a decision.
Do you struggle with the fact that you perhaps both have ADHD and struggle to task initiate, making it difficult, yet again, to make a choice?
We really do.
Well, say hello to Politeness Coin.
What's that?
When you're both too polite or indecisive to make a decision, break that tie through randomized chance.
You mean we're paying for a tool to give us a random answer that we pick from,
Yeah!
rather than just using a regular coin.
Yeah!
That sounds brilliant! Tell me more!
This one's built for a specific purpose. Write your names on each side and then flip it like you would a regular coin. It's politeness coin. A brand new product. A very original product.
Wow, just $199.99? That's such a steal! Now can I justify it? If only there was some way I could make this decision. I'll ask my partner.
Touche.
Hello, Cybertruck call centre. No, you can't do donuts in it.
No, you can't leave it in the sun.
Hello, no, yeah, Cybertruck call centre. No, I wouldn't recommend letting raccoons anywhere near it.
Cybertruck call centre, you can't gently wipe it with a microfiber cloth, no.
Cybertruck call centre? No. Despite the name, cannot be used as a truck.
Legally, safely, or morally, no, you cannot camp in it.
Unfortunately, without invalidating the warranty, you would not actually be able to drive the truck?
No, this should go without saying, you can't get it wet.
You definitely shouldn't expose it to bright light.
You absolutely must not charge it after midnight.
No matter how much it begs, no matter how much it pleads, never charge them after midnight. Do you know what I want to see more of?
What do you want to see more of?
Social Justice Warriors.
Social Justice Warriors?
Yeah.
Right, Harry.
Right, mate. How you doing?
Oh, doing my little best. I feel like we're getting a bit autumnal, and I'm almost ready for a pumpkin spice latte, mate.
Oh, lovely.
You doing all right?
Oh, I'm doing all right. Grumbling at corporations and CEOs again, but what's new there, you know?
Yeah, what they done today?
Oh, nothing particularly new, but just I was travelling at the weekend via train and was reminded of trains cancelled or delayed because a lack of staff to staff the trains.
A lack of staff, unavailable staff suddenly becoming sick, and this happening constantly all day, every day. Admittedly, people, do fall ill, but, the frequency with which it happens on most UK rail services is questionable, isn't it?
Might line up with, the same sort of industries that have historically been striking for better treatment of their workers, better pay, etc., etc.
Better safety conditions.
Exactly. And it got me thinking of a thing that, this is not going to be news to you. You know this, I know this, but the thought just came into a sort of crystallised form in my head, and I had to say it, which was, there is basically not a single worker strike that has basically ever happened on the planet that could not have been solved by a person with more money than sense giving up some of their money to either pay the people doing the labour or paying to make things safer for the people doing the labour.
Yeah.
Basically, every strike that has ever happened could be boiled down to either give the people making all of this income for you, making your company all that profit, give some of the people doing that work a bit more money.
Stop extracting, the capital from...
Yeah, extract a little less of the capital from the workers. Or make things safer for the workers, which usually is a little less profit for the CEO, that they pay to do the things that make things safer for the people doing the fucking work.
If you, instead of paying huge dividends to your shareholders or huge bonuses to your CEOs, what if you just said, this year, instead, we're going to take that money and we're going to plough it into investing in upgrading the safety of facilities, the facilities of various facilities. We're going to make sure there's childcare. We're going to make sure that everyone is paid enough that they can afford somewhere to live. We're going to invest in the local areas and make sure, that there is sufficient housing, that people can afford, transport to their jobs. Through perhaps we should help the local areas invest in a well-funded public transit system.
Indeed.
Free at the point of use.
It's any company that is a for-profit company, that profit only exists because surplus value from the workers' work is being taken and funneled upward. Yeah. And if you want to stop a strike, literally it is as easy as funnel some of that money back down to either the workers or the safety of the workers. It's literally just give back a little of the excess profit that you stole off of those workers in the first place.
And also pay your taxes so that the local area where you are running your business can, afford all of, the services that you're probably using. Like, if your employee goes sick, they're probably using local hospitals, local doctors, maybe local ambulance services. If there is a fire at one of your facilities, they are almost certainly calling the local fire brigade, which, these companies, generally speaking, aren't paying for because they aren't paying any fucking tax.
Exactly. Ugh.
Fancy hug, mate.
Oh, yeah.
Good hug, mate. Good hug. Right, I think I'm going to have a little lie down.
Sounds lovely.
Nice.
So, Laura,
Yes.
you do things on the internet, and I
do.
bet people want to know where those things are. Where are those things?
Oh, they can find those things at Laura K. Buzz pretty much everywhere. Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, TikTok, Patreon, that's the one that pays the bills, Blue Sky, Mastodon, all the things. You can find me at Laura K. Buzz. Things that I will have had up around the time that this episode is going out. There's an Astrobot accessibility review that would have gone up last week. I did a video about Echoes of Wisdom and a bunch of old A.G. Aonuma quotes about what it would take for us to get a playable Zelda, and the weird feelings I have about trying to reconcile what that game has been revealed to be and, seemingly the thought process of the man behind it. I wrote a piece that's on laurakbuzz.com about trying to be excited about things and the ways that getting excited and then very quickly finding out a thing is bad can make it really vulnerable to be excited in future about new things, and trying to grapple with how do I keep feeling excited in a world where it feels all the more common to go, oh, I found this new thing I'm excited for. Oh, it's okay, it's bad. Okay.
People involved are terrible.
Yeah, so check out laurakbuzz.com, you can see that. And this week's accessibility episode is about the dangers of trying to force yourself to push through motion sickness. That's up alongside a new episode of Control-Alt-Access. There's so many things to check out.
So many.
What about you? Where are you on the internet?
I don't have the unified branding, but I do have a link tree. It's linktree.ee/Janiac, Janiac. You can find the things I've written, the t-shirts I've designed, the music I've made, all of that good stuff. You can help support me at patreon.com/stonedmonkeyradio. For as little as $1 a month, you can help me justify all of the time I put into editing all of the things, making the things. And also, I would like to apologise to everyone who has been listening to this on YouTube. Apparently, when I switched my video editing software over a little while ago, it does not treat a monotrack as a monotrack. It treats it as left channel only. And I only found out about that today. So.
I largely don't look at YouTube comments because they're a cesspool, so I apologise for not noticing this sooner.
That's no shade to the people who are genuinely lovely in your YouTube
there
comments.
are some lovely. There is one person who always goes, engagement for the engagement god. I deeply appreciate you.
Deeply appreciate that. Deeply appreciate everyone who listens,
Indeed,
full stop. But yeah, I generally, I look at the SoundCloud comments.
Yeah.
I look at the comments that I have access to. If you're commenting on Apple Podcasts, I don't have access to that. We signed up to that whenever we started making this show, or 20 episodes into
Neither
making
of
the
us
show.
has an Apple device to really keep an eye on
Exactly.
that. Yeah.
And if I don't even know if there is commenting on
You can do
Spotify.
reviews, I think, but that's of the show as a whole.
I'm in Spotify, but
Spotify, I don't know.
I don't know how Spotify works. I don't have a Spotify. They kept giving money to transphobes and fascists, so I cancelled my subscription.
See?
Yeah, so, apologies if you had been... I mean, you wouldn't be commenting about the YouTube stuff there, but yes, apologies to the people on YouTube. It is available in all those other places if you've ever just wanted an audio version.
The issue is fixed.
The issue is now known, and I will do my best not to fuck it up. It is something I actively have to make sure that I am adjusting a setting when I am exporting. Again, apologies, and I have re-uploaded last week's episode, and hopefully now that I've mentioned it in this episode, I won't fuck up and put it in this week's
The
episode.
joy of technological flow.
And also ADHD. Woo! Yeah, that's everything for me, Laura. Will you sing us out, please, darling?
Until next time, Be a stranger.